Intuition is something that have guided me throughout my process. I think when it comes to creating design products such as industrial design objects or even small production art objects, if you follow your intuition to create something that resonates with you, there's a much higher chance that it'll resonate with somebody else. This is something I stole from Rick Rubin's. He wrote this amazing book called The Creative Act, and it is just a brilliant guide to help you dive deeper into your inner intuition and creativity. The reason I've been able to make a career out of what I do is because I've been able to find something that serves people and that I'm interested in, and I have the skill set to do. And the marriage of these three is what has allowed me to, I think, have a quite a fulfilling life so far. You want to be able to nudge people along, bring them along with an aesthetic that they find acceptable and that they can digest, while all the while pushing, aspirational and also creating room for a little more edginess, without completely polarizing them. There's some people that just immediately love our products. They're very like out there, and that's awesome. There are people. There's a lot in the middle that they're kind of undecided, and I think that aesthetically for what I am doing, if I created something that was just so polarizing, I'm sorry, like I would probably sell 3 a year, so I know my playground. I know what will work for the agenda that I am trying to help people have a more open conversation about pleasure.
Coming up on Design Mindset, Ti Chang, the co-founder, creative director at CRAVE, on how sometimes your gut knows things that no amount of user research can capture, and how trusting your creative instincts can create entirely new product categories. Hey everyone, welcome back to Design Mindset. I'm Radhika Seth. Today's episode is brought to us by KeyShot, and we're diving into something that every creative person wrestles with, but rarely talks about openly. That mysterious inner voice that guides our best work. You know the feeling when data says one thing, but something deeper says, let's try something else instead? When logic points left, but your gut pulls you right? My guest today has built her entire career on trusting that inner compass. Ti Chang is the creative director at CRAVE, and she's the co-founder as well. And she's literally created product categories that didn't exist before. From her time at Georgia Tech, where user-centered research was drilled into her, to pioneering the first crowd-funded intimate wellness product with DUET. T has consistently made decisions that defied the conventional wisdom. She's been the first woman in multiple design roles. She's navigated the complex world of intimate wellness design, and she's proven time and again that sometimes your intuition knows things that focus groups can never really tell you about. T, welcome to Design Mindset, and thank you for trusting me with this conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Great, T. I want to start with something that I've always been curious about. Remember when we worked together on the crowdfunding project, DUET, through Seeki?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. What a wild time that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and we thought we could build, like at least Seeki thought we could build our own Kickstarter based, on the creativity formula, and we had you on board. You trusted your instincts on something deeply personal. How did you know that other people would also, want something like what you were creating with the duet?
I think with the Duet in particular, that was an object. It is a USB rechargeable Vibe. Okay, that's 2 motors.
Mhm.
It was the first of its kind and also the first to be crowdfunded.
Mm.
And that object, that product, which is still our flagship product, um, created out of a technological innovation in that we separated the USB rechargeable battery from the haptic, which is the motor. And that in and of itself was more technology based, but we very much researched and learned, how that made the user experience better. So that was in that respect, it was a little less intuition. However, the idea of making the aesthetic much more elevated using really high quality materials such as metal with a metal, die cast inner casing and also high polished metal on the outside. That is something that came from my gut.
Mm-hmm.
In that when I started designing intimate wellness products in 2008, okay, wow, that's so long ago. For me, like most entrepreneurs, you start doing something because you see a lack, in the marketplace. And
Correct,
for me,
correct.
I felt when it came to looking for pleasure products, intimate wellness products for myself, when I went into, even nice boutiques or, everyday boutiques, and, there's some very dodgy boutiques,
Mhm.
the products just did not speak to me. The products did not seem to have been designed with a sense of respect and a care for beauty and craftsmanship and things like that, that I think which is in all the well-designed products that we love and cherish. So going into it, I just wanted to bring that beauty and that respect into the object. And so for me, even though with the Duet it's USB rechargeable, the technology is there, but I just wanted to make it feel like something someone would find precious. And having using metal and the precision in which it's engineered and designed, it is really tiny to get all these parts in such a small footprint. That for us, it was my intuition, and then we put it on crowdfunding, as you know, and that is when you start to kind of test to see if the intuition is right, and it was. I
Was.
think we raised over $100,000. I think, yeah, over $100,000. And, for back then it was a lot,
Yeah, it was.
maybe not today.
Yeah, it was a lot of money that I think, if given the ratio and inflation, could be $1 million also in given today's day and age, and the impact was really, really good. So that's a really
Yeah.
fascinating start that you have given me. So, and I think somewhere before you've told me this, that you can only work on things that you're genuinely interested in, and that's quite the space to be given your kind of body of work. How do you distinguish between this is just for me and this might be universal? How do you distinguish between this?
I think in the beginning, when I started working after I graduated, I
Mm-hmm.
just needed a job. I just needed a job. I know this sounds it's very basic, but there's no shame in that. You just
Yeah,
need to support yourself. You need,
yeah,
and also as importantly, you need to support yourself and add tools into your tool belt. Okay. Because you're a young designer, you have no proven experience,
correct.
and able to land a job designing hairbrushes for women at Goody. And I was lucky in that I kind of gravitated towards the company because I'm like, oh, hairbrushes, I have hair. I enjoy beauty, beauty products, and that there was a natural connection there. And it wasn't until I worked more and more, I found myself very passionate and very driven to make sure that I really addressed an unmet need, there. And from there, I kind of started to listen to my gut a little bit. I'm like, oh, I really only care about designing products for women, just because for the simple fact that women's products have been historically unmet and often overlooked and under designed. Okay. That's just the fact. And that's not just in products, but that is in medicine. Okay. Which is crazy. So, as you know, we know this already. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I decided like that was going to be my focus. And that led me to my next role. I was headhunted to go to Trek Bicycle, and they were looking for a female industrial designer to work on their women's specific design. And that piqued my interest. But part of the reason, even I was very honest. I was like, look, I've never ridden a bike since like I was 12. Okay. I'm not a bike nerd. I don't know I don't know what gears are basically, at that, I know now, but they're like, no, that's great. That's what we want. And I took the job because it was super technical. And my gut feeling told me that, okay, they're using tools and type of, design engineering that you were not exposed before. So by accepting this role, I would be gaining more tools under my tool belt. So, and also is very interesting to me, obviously, because it is related to women's products. So that's why I took that job. So it's a combination of kind of edging and allowing yourself to be like, oh, can I see myself in that role? Does that seem challenging? And that's what kind of guided my light in doing that. And then eventually, I think the older I've gotten, I'm 45 now, the type of work that I do has more, I would say, an artful take
Mm-hmm.
on, I would say, artful and emotional take on product design than I think if I was working at a, normal in-house consultancy or agency. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Because I'm really also curious about this tension. Okay, Georgia Tech drilled user-centric research into whatever you did. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's like what formal training does to you. But when you created an entire product category, probably that no focus group would have requested for until you went out and found out about it. When did you realize that your gut might be onto things that research couldn't capture? Did you ever have that kind of a feeling?
Yeah. So when I started creating pleasure jewelry, that was in 2008. And keep in mind, that was when kind of
Mm.
the world kind of fell apart in a different way. That was the dot-com boom crash, housing crisis. And at that time, I just left Royal College of Art. Okay, so I went to Georgia Tech, got my foundation in, human-centered design and research. And when I went to RCA, they kind of blew it all up. It was so conceptual. It was so much more than I was ever exposed to at Georgia Tech. But that conceptual thinking and with the like a foundation in user research and feasibility, and also I had a solid background in manufacturing, that really allowed me to be able to create something and make it happen. Okay. Now with pleasure jewelry, I was at a place where I had these things under my tool belt, but I couldn't find a job. And I think for the first time, I felt lost, but also excited. I had a little bit of money saved up, and I was like, I'm going to allow my mind to play. I'm going to allow myself to play when it comes to my work because I couldn't find a single company that I wanted to join. That was the thing, because usually I'm like, what kind of company would I wanted to join a women focused, product company, but like the extent of my imagination was like at that time was tampons. And I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna be limited in materials. I think it's just cotton or some mix of it, whatever. But so I was like, let me just play. What is it I want to see in the world? What do I want to work on? Okay. So I gave myself some time and I started playing with jewelry. Okay. And but also I remember I was looking for a personal product for myself at that time. And I went into a shop and like I said, I was just like, yeah, this is not really, my vibe. Um, I then started imagining like, what if that's like kind of what always starts my brain going, what if pleasure products could be beautiful? And when you use them, when you interacted with it, you did not feel shame or embarrassment where you're like, oh my God, I gotta like hide this real fast, or like I gotta figure out where can I hide this so that I just move my screen. Where let me just get out of full screen. Um, what kind of product would allow me to interact to just feel beauty, to feel that like someone really thought about me, someone was trying to make this experience beautiful and without embarrassment and without shame. Because that is the biggest barrier to pleasure
Yeah,
when it comes to, I mean, they're all obviously psychological, but when it comes to products, that's what turned off a lot of people thinking like this can't be for me. I don't want it. Because a lot
yeah,
of it's kind of
yeah,
like stuff you want to be near your body.
yeah.
So I just wanted to make it beautiful.
Mm.
Now, this is when kind of the what it was to say, the wheel hits the pavement. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, I put in some of my own money to
Mhm.
create these prototypes. I even went out to China because I needed to make prototypes. And at the time, we didn't have 3D printing. We didn't, also still doing one-off small batch metal, still kind of difficult in the US. But I went over to China. They're really good with steel. They're really good with, metals and prototyping. So I went out there, got some samples made. And this is when it's like the equivalent of Kickstarter or like crowdfunding, in that I didn't have that at the time. So I made these prototypes. I went into like one of the world's biggest trade shows for adult products, and I got some appointments with a few buyers to show them my prototype. Because I figured, like, if they told me to like pound stand or like, yeah, this is not quite right, then I would know that there's not really a market for this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my test. So I went to the show. I showed 5 different buyers. Every single one of them was like, if you had inventory, I'd give you a PO, a purchase order right now.
Wow.
And they were so like delighted. They were just like wow, like they were just enthralled. And when I saw that emotional reaction from them, that excitement from them, I was like, okay, then I'm onto something. And that's what gave me the confidence to place my first order with my vendors to get that going. And that's when no amount of research would have given me the answer, like, or the green light to make pleasure jewelry. Because like if I ask people like, hey, would you wear a vibe around your neck? And people would be like,
Insane. Insane.
no, that sounds like a bad idea. Yeah, frankly. But when they see how, like I'm wearing one, like when they
You're
see
wearing
how
one.
beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah, when they see how beautiful it could be, how like how it doesn't have to feel like something that you're ashamed of,
Yeah.
then it's like the mind opens. And I think it really proves the point that we are emotional buyers.
Yeah.
We don't just buy, there's some things, yes, we buy out of practicality, but a lot of things that we buy are emotional.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And this connects to something that our sponsors, KeyShot, also believes in. It enables it so beautifully that when you are designing intimate wellness products, so much depends on the material choices, like the surface textures and how different finishes feel visually and emotionally. And KeyShot's ability to refine materials and colors in real time means that you can trust your intuitive responses to different aesthetics, directions, and testing out soft touch plastics, exploring premium finishes, and seeing how different colorways impact emotionally the story of a product. And sometimes your gut reaction to seeing material rendering, perfectly is so much more valuable than any focus group's feedback. So now that you're running Crave, with a team of and your investors and everyone, how do you translate my intuition says into a language that people, are on board with you and they really go with whatever you are saying?
I think one thing I'm very aware of is, because what I design is so taboo, still across many cultures, I know intuitively what aesthetic and form I can push that is like pushing people right onto the edge without them falling off. Because if I come with something that is like, I mean, some people might say pleasure jewelry is radical. Okay. It's like, yes, it is an avant-garde idea. Okay. It's not
Yeah,
for everyone. That's okay. Not even good designs are for everyone. That's okay. And for like most women, we're not for everyone, and that's okay.
yeah.
Um, I know the playground, I know that I need to be somewhere in the middle
Mhm.
that feels acceptable, but not too out there.
Mhm.
And so, there's certain materials that I don't, like, that obviously wouldn't make sense in intimate wellness, like, using wood or certain natural porous materials and stuff like that. But I think aesthetically, um, there are some really timeless forms that I gravitate towards, because I know that helping people change perception is a slow burn. It is not an immediate thing. I know that now. When I started, like with the duet, with like the first Vesper, I was like, oh, this is a great idea. It's going to change the world. It's been 15 years, 15. And what I've learned is that when you have an avant-garde, a new idea, it's going to take time. I think yeah, and so you want to be able to nudge people along, bring them along with an aesthetic that they find acceptable and that they can digest, while all the while pushing, aspirational, and also creating room for a little more edginess, without completely polarizing them. And that's kind of for me, because I need to bring people in the middle. There's some people that just immediately love our products. They're very like out there, and that's awesome. There are people. There's a lot in the middle that they're kind of undecided. And I think that aesthetically, for what I am doing, if I created something that was just so polarizing, I'm sorry, like I would probably sell three a year. So I think aesthetically, I know my playground. I know what will work for the agenda that I am trying to help people have a more open conversation about pleasure.
Yeah. I'm with you on this. I know of five other Indian women who are so happy with what you have created because
Oh,
I have taken it on me to gift it to them. So five of my girlfriends have the Vespa with them.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's just a different kind of vibe, that's for sure.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally. And if it's not for somebody, and that's okay. We
yeah,
also have side products they can have at home. It There's no right. I think one of the things that people misconstrue with my personal stance on pleasure is that I do not think a woman have to be wearing one of my products, a pleasure jewelry, to feel empowered. They don't. They can wear whatever they want. If they feel empowered, they're empowered with or without the object. And some people feel more so with my products, and some people don't, and that's okay. There's room for all of that, and no one is right or wrong. And that's kind of, and I think that's kind of the beauty of designing with intuition, because you're putting something that can cause an emotional reaction. And some people will love it, and some people will hate it, and some people will kind of be undecided and like, oh, maybe I don't know, and that's okay. So, and I think I'm happy designing this way
yeah.
because I tend to think that some of the most iconic products that we remember,
Mhm.
designers that design with their emotion. It's
Yeah.
almost a much more creative and artful take on design versus strictly industrial design, which has its place too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a category that is very disruptive, if you ask. And what you have created is disruptive designs. Kudos to you for that. So, from what I know you, and I know you personally too, you process information very differently than most people do. Do you think that affects your creative insights, or do you notice that, do you notice things that others miss?
Being neurodivergent, I am both ADHD and autistic, and both of which I learned later on in my life, in my late 30s to 40s. Um, that has completely changed how I treated myself, because when you're undiagnosed, you think there's something very wrong with you. Like, why can't I read this, like everybody else, or why can't I process this in the same way? And now that I know that my brain works differently, it helps me to have more compassion for myself. And also, it better explains why I have this hyper focused ability to make things happen, which is part of my superpower. But the other part of that is, if something is not interesting to me, it's not interesting to me. There's nothing I can do. Like I can't. And so that, I think, works against me in some ways, but at the same time, the things that I am very passionate about, things like, you know, more gender equality in design, the activism, trying to change the conversation around pleasure, bringing more emotion in design. These are the things that I'm just hyper focused on, and that is just my, I guess you can say, a special interest slash a career that I've been able to do for a very long time. Yeah.
So from where you started your journey, to pleasure products, that's not exactly a traditional career path. How does your inner compass guide you through those major pivots?
I feel my my soul tells me to do the things to be of service to
Mm,
people.
mhm,
And what the reason I've been able to make a career out of what I do is because I've been able to find something that serves people
mhm,
and that I'm interested in, and I have the skill set to do. And the marriage of these three is what has allowed me to, I think, have a quite a fulfilling life so far.
mhm. Tell me, is there any time where your intuition completely contradicted the market data and you went with your gut anyway? And then what happened? Was there any situation like that?
I mean, I would say pleasure jewelry was a big one because like nobody was crazy enough to do that. But
Mhm,
I felt it was a compelling idea because jewelry has always been a
mhm,
symbol, a talisman, a source of power for
mhm,
women. And it's a decorative type
mhm.
of power. When you put it's just like when you wear this new jacket, it makes you feel much more like together, you have a
Yeah,
little extra
yeah,
bounce in your step. I tuned into that emotion of how it makes you feel emboldened and more confident and brought that into pleasure. I don't think that makes sense when it comes to talking to investors. I
mhm,
don't think I have at the time, without products. I think I would be hard pressed to really explain this idea compellingly to an investor. But it's not until I made it, put it out there, and
yeah.
people really love it, they understand. However, I will say intuition helped to create this idea, but every single one of our products still go through the rigors of industrial design, which means we still prototype, we engineer the heck out of it, we get user feedback, and we rinse and we repeat. That is like a core foundation to how we make products at Crave. And it's that magic of intuition and emotion that enabled us to create innovative products that captures people's imaginations.
Yeah, so see what you explained right now, this is exactly what the principles of good design are in any case. The rigor that you put through your products through the prototyping and then the feedback, taking back the feedback and, improving further. And that's the purpose of design mindset also, how to use these, design thinking tools that designers have at their disposal because they've learned it and they've lived through it their college life and how to bring it into your everyday life. That's the purpose of design minds. So,
Mm, I love that.
so
Everything's a prototype. I mean, to be honest, like,
uh,
we live in a world in a time where every day we have to make decisions where we don't have all the answers. We
yeah.
can't predict the future. And so it seems like the only way forward is to try some things to see if it works. And if it doesn't, you try again and you try something else. It's like this prototyping on everyday level.
So this takes me to a very fun part of our conversation. It's called the Design Mindset Challenge. I have a challenge for you, and
Okay.
I hope you can give me some good insight.
I hope so. I don't know.
So this one's inspired by our DUET experience, where you literally created the first crowdfunded vibrator that everyone said was impossible. So here's the scenario. You're consulting for a startup that wants to launch an intimate wellness product. Their market research shows customers want discreet, medical looking package and everything white and clinical. So that's the research. But when you visit their prototype user testing and notice people are gravitating towards the colorful one, the playful option that breaks the all the rules that have been set, and the data says clinical, but your gut says joyful. They launch in 8 weeks. What's your move going to be with them?
This is a good one, because one is what the designer wants and the other is what people want.
Yeah.
And this is where, look, you're a startup, you need to succeed. So if that's what people want, given the things that you've like showed them, like this is your thing, this is what like overwhelmingly people want that instead, go with that. Because this is not your like art project where you can just be like, I just want to do this, which you can if this is just for funsies. And, if this startup is just an eccentric hobby of yours, but if this is critical to the livelihood of so many people and you want to succeed, yeah, go with what people are looking for.
Wow, that's nice. I like the approach that you have taken and the solution that you have given, because this is something that I encounter a lot with designers. Because when we get so many submissions and when we say, okay, we can't be publishing this, and many a times designers get very upset with us, and we're like, these are certain things that, don't make it market ready. Our readers will not respond to it. And like you said, they think of it as an art project and they get so offended. And we're like, no, A, grow thick skin. Two, listen and understand, what the feedback is. So while intuition is good and you should go with it, and your gut feeling is probably right, but right now the market is probably not ready for it. So come back, revisit, prototype, research a little bit more, and then come back. So I get
Yeah, I want to also add to that in that it is there's sometimes there's a designer's curse. uh the colors that we gravitate towards, the shapes, the ideas sometimes are just a little more out there than what people can accept.
that.
There's times when I've thought that this would take off, and oh, actually this is a great example going back to the duet.
Uh-huh.
In the very first, when we first did the campaign, one of the colors was brown.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was so chic. I love like it was kind of leathery looking, but no, I think it was the worst selling color ever. It was so bad. So this is where I would counsel to designers, like you also have to accept that you are a designer because you have this elevated aesthetic sense of color and material and form. And know that that is not always going to translate. You're going to be a little ahead of the game than what the market's going to be ready to accept. And so sometimes, yes, you need to give people what they want if financial goals are meaningful to you. If this is just your art eccentric hobby project, then do whatever the hell you want. Yeah, so I just want to put that out there because I think I've seen myself thinking that this color is going to be amazing. I've been wrong many times.
Yeah.
And when you're wrong with something as like in product, when it comes to color, you're stuck with a lot of inventory and you do not want that. That is not good for business. So anyway, yeah.
Cool. So that takes care of our design mindset challenge, and we move into the even more fun part, which is the rapid fire. So here are a few questions that I give you, and top of your head, quick fire answers. That's what we would like.
Okay.
So let's do it. Designers who only trust data are missing.
Missing their heart and soul.
One decision you made on pure intuition that everyone thought that was crazy.
Pleasure jewelry.
Apart from pleasure jewelry.
Being crazily focused on designing for women.
Okay. iPhone or Android? What does your choice say about trusting instinct?
iPhone out of habit.
Okay.
But it's seriously, the user interface has gotten so bad. Like I don't even know what to do right now. So
Your intuition says design something, but you know it won't sell. Would you make it anyway?
yes, if I think it's going to be a fun journey.
Okay. One word. What does trusting your creative compass feel like?
It feels scary.
Okay.
It feels scary and it feels isolating because you're the only person who sees it and nobody else quite understands it. And so for a long time, you're going to just be in a scary kind of a lonely spot. Yeah.
Wow. I never anticipated that answer. Wow. See, this has been such an insightful conversation. And what strikes me most is how you've turned intuition into a competitive advantage. Not by ignoring data, but by knowing when to trust your inner voice. And when it sees something that data can't capture as yet, you've gone for it. And thanks to KeyShot for supporting design mindset and showing us how the right visualization tools can help designers trust and refine their instinctive responses to materials, colors, and finishes. So, for everyone listening, T, how can they follow your work at CRAVE? Could you just
Yeah, you can follow Crave on Instagram, on social at Love Crave. My personal Instagram is designer Ti, one word, and my personal website is designerti.com.
And the key insight that I'm taking today, your intuition isn't the opposite of research. It's often the thing that tells you what question research should be asking in the first place. Thanks for being so open about this, T. This conversation is exactly what I wanted to have with Design Mindset. And next week, we'll be exploring some more conversations. Remember, don't just live by default, design it. And see you next week.